Hey, Lupe here with CineMovie. I don't usually cover these sorts of things, but I think it's important time right now. The stakes are high right before the election. And I wanted to talk about one documentary which I think was excellent. And anybody who wants to know their history of voter suppression should check it out. And it's free for everybody on Amazon Prime right now. It's called All In, The Fight for Democracy. And I got some care packages. And of course, this is for people who have to camp out in the states where the GOP are largely in control because they do not want you to vote. So basically, you have to pack a lunch, some water, to camp out. How unfortunate is that? To go vote. For your civic duty, you have to prepare yourself. I mean, usually you do this when you go wait for concert tickets, right? Not for voting. You got a little fanny pack. And of course, you got a mask. This is not the first care package I've received for election. And of course, you got your gloves. Oh, I haven't used this yet. This is so you can open up doors and things you don't want to touch. And if you've been a Rite Aid, the pharmacy, they have little finger condoms. They're hilarious. People laugh at them. So basically, you can use them when you're using the pad to pay. I thought it was hilarious. And here's some wipes. So luckily I live here in California, in LA, and we don't have this problem of waiting in line. I got my mail-in ballot, but I think I'm going to go vote in person just because I'm a little paranoid with all the rhetoric going on from the GOP and these lawsuits. And most likely they will try to invalidate a lot of these things. So, and there we go, one more thing. A charger for your phone because you're going to be there for many hours. Like I said, it's unfortunate. A lot of people have to camp out, wait in line for hours and hours and hours. But watch this documentary. It gives you a history of the struggle for voting equality for women and people of color. And what I liked about it also that it covers the Latino group, how they've been suppressed throughout history, and Native Americans, and obviously blacks throughout the years, starting with after Reconstruction. And it's a really interesting story they tell. Not a story, it's historically based. That after Reconstruction, black males only, women were not allowed to vote yet, were voting in droves, and they were electing black congressmen and locals, and they were making gains. And what happened? The Jim Crow laws started. And that's exactly why they started the Jim Crow laws. It wasn't merely to segregate blacks and whites at the time. It was for voter suppression. I didn't know that exactly. I knew it was segregation, but it was mostly for voter suppression. And so they walk you throughout history how a certain party that made the switch after Civil War, if you know the history, Civil War was the Republicans. Lincoln was a Republican trying to gain the freedom for slaves, but now switched and now it's the GOP. And Stacey Abrams narrates this documentary. It's very well done. And of course, you know her. She was a candidate, gubernatorial candidate for Georgia. And she's also an activist. So she knows what she's talking about. But I like the fact that this takes you through the whole history of it. How it came about, how the KKK came about to enforce the Jim Crow laws. And it takes you all the way up into the present of voter suppression through gerrymandering, limiting lines, limiting voting places so that people are discouraged from voting, and just all sorts of tricks up their sleeves. And you cannot believe, when they trace the history, you cannot believe how much things have not changed. I mean, it's astounding when you watch the documentary. I was, at some points, really pissed off and crying at some points because you saw in the 60s how, I mean, you've seen the clips before, but put it in context altogether from history all the way up to now. When is it going to stop? Obviously, we know how it's going to stop. Through voting. And if we did not have voter suppression like some president, 45, said, the Republicans would never win. Exactly, that's why they do this, because the Republicans would never win. Most people want equal rights for everybody, but obviously there's a section that doesn't because they want to rule. So I would recommend, highly recommend, watching this. Inform yourselves, know how this works. I've been hearing about gerrymandering for years, and I always thought, how is this even allowed? And this is especially important now because of the Supreme Court. We have conservatives in the majority, and conservatives doesn't necessarily mean values. What it means is suppression. They will be taking rights away from from a lot of the strides we made with gay marriage, all the way down to police reform. So this is a dangerous period right now. I think it's really important to go vote. And like I said, this is for free on Amazon Prime right now. There's also another documentary called Resisterhood, and it tracks the women's movement. And they actually have a woman who's 84 years old, Margaret Morrison. She walked from Selma to Montgomery back in the day in the 60s when they were fighting for equality for black men and women. And also a woman who's the granddaughter of one of the original suffragists. So it's a good one to check out as well from the women's perspective only, although it does also cover a lot of the history of voter suppression. So there's my recommendation. Like I said, I don't usually go political, but right now the stakes are high. And I think we fear for the future because we want equality for all, not just for some. And so pay attention, people.